All righty. I do not have any illnesses or deaths to report, which is good. I kind of moved that around on the agenda. We want to start with that. Also, we'd like to introduce some of our guests here today. To my far right, our trustee, Wade Hostetler. He is in charge of our clergy. And you met Pastor Mateko. To my far left, introducing our speaker today is Carlton Williams. And then obviously our speaker here, Branson Wright. I want to recognize our sponsors, Dr. Peter Ferguson, Marion Motley Memorial Fund Scholarship, the Aultcare Primetime Health Plan, Wilkshire Golf Course, and a new sponsor now, Liberty Ford. So thank you to those sponsors. We've got a few announcements today. A lot of them on the agenda today. First of all, today's the last day that you can purchase tickets to the Nash Family Event Conference Center next week for the Pro Football Hall of Fame speaker. Skyline Pines will cater that event. Your choices, you have 2 meal choices. You'll have chicken or scrod, penne pasta, seasoned green beans, and Texas sheet cake. And all attendees must purchase a ticket. It's $16 for members and $21 for non-members or guests. And our speaker, if you haven't already heard, is Dick LeBeau. There is handicap parking that will be in the lot, the upper lot, the main lot. Shuttle buses, golf carts will be available to bring you down to the entrance. Also, there'll be this will be posted on our social media. We just got it this morning. It's things to know about next week. Certainly the parking situation. Doors at the event will open at 10:30. Arrivals prior to that should come to the main door. If you come after 10:30, you can come to the side door there at the Nash Center. But if you get there before 10:30, you have to come through the main door. All right. Handicap parking is available in the hall's main lot. Overflow parking is located down in Stadium Park, and they will have a shuttle bus to bring you up if you so choose to go down there. Any past Luncheon Club president that is interested in purchasing a jacket, this is new this year, please see RJ. You have to do that by October 9th. He'll need your size and the money, and you can make the check out to RJ. And just see RJ for more information on that. He'll get you set up there. I want to thank a couple of our board members, or not our board members, I'm sorry, our club members, Ted Lockmeyer and Bob Matthews, for their contributions to the Marion Motley Memorial Scholarship Fund. So thank you, gentlemen, if you're here. Appreciate that. And we have some extra shirts. I was told that we do have some shirts. You know, over the years we purchase different things. There are shirts, and see Tim, Richard in the back if you're interested. There's 2 of the orange ones. I think I see some folks wearing them. They're long sleeve, a double X and a triple XL. We have 1 gray long sleeve, which is a small, and 1 gray short sleeve, which is a large. So if you're interested in getting those, see Tim. All right, that leads us to our raffle tickets. So get those tickets out, and I'll have our speaker here pull the numbers. Give me one.
What was your number?
No, not that one.
I got it.
All righty, the ticket number is 388-673. $172, and Ozzy has the money back there. 673. Right there. All right. Ozzie will get you your money. All right, once again, our speaker next week is Pro Football Hall of Famer and former Ohio State Buckeye defensive back, longtime defensive coordinator, and a one-time head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, and that is Dick LeBeau. So hope you all will be able to make it over to the Hall of Fame next week and hear Dick LeBeau. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the gentleman who will introduce our speaker today. Please welcome Carlton Williams.
I guess this is like being a runner-up in a beauty pageant. Now, first of all, I'm a Canton guy. I live right up the street. Go Pups all day, every day. That's all. Y'all winning right now, so I can't even say nothing. I met Branson Wright about 17 years ago. I was doing a film, and I shot a film called 110 Feet. It shows if a kid from Canton, Ohio, makes it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it took him 30 years to walk 110 feet. Get it? From Fawcett to the Hall of Fame. It takes your whole life to walk across the street. Jim Brown narrated it. Me and Branson met. We became friends. But that's enough about me. I'm an extremely attractive man. I'm very well spoken. And thanks to RJ, because I've never been to this, but I've known about this for years, and every time he puts up a video, I watch him all the time. So I know the whole history of this place, everything about it. Hello to Mr. Larsoul. I don't care that I'm grown and he's grown. He was a teacher of mine, so he will always be Mr. Larsoul. So I was raised that way. But Branson Wright is the president of, I don't even know the name of your company, I've known you for 30 years, B Wright Ventures. This guy is a visionary, because we're just guys that take ideas and try to make them happen, however by any means necessary. He did the HBO documentary about the women of Troy, USC basketball. I don't know if any of you guys ever seen that. Also, it's a very good 30 for 30 on ESPN called Believe Land, about Cleveland and all the mishaps. That's him. Branson forever was the beat writer for the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I used to get a lot of free tickets to a lot of games. And it's just who you know. I know a lot of good people to get me into a lot of stuff free, because you can use this. My name is Crime. Crime don't pay. Crime don't pay. My mom was right. So I'm just trying to go through his highlights, and there's so many of them. You're going to see a clip from King of the Block. He lives in Cleveland, but he's a Cincinnati guy, University of Cincinnati. And this is about, our rivalry is McKinley-Massillon. Who cares about anything else in the world? But they got this little rivalry down there. I don't even know who it is. Who is it?
Cincinnati, Princeton, and Moeller.
Oh yeah, Princeton and Moeller. Who cares? He did a film about that, which is actually an incredible film. And he's going to show some clips of it. And that concludes my time. I would love to stand here and talk about me for hours, because it's an incredible subject, but it's not about me today, and I'm humble enough to sit down and shut up. So, without further ado, Branson Wright.
Thanks for that, Carlton. I don't know how long we're going to be friends after this, but no, it's great. So, who out here has played high school football? See, show of hands. Okay, all right. And which school was your biggest rival? Let's hear them. Who's your biggest rival?
Warren Harding.
Hoover. Now, the one thing about rivalries, if you all remember, you couldn't wait to score a touchdown on somebody on the other team that you probably didn't like, or you couldn't wait to knock the snot out of them. I mean, you remember those days? But it's funny how often in life, the same guy that you couldn't wait to smash, or the school where you couldn't wait to beat, that sometimes you guys go to college together. Sometimes you become friends. Sometimes you get in business together. Remember that? And but that same competitive hatred that a rivalry can generate, can produce a lasting friendship. Personally, my biggest rival out of Cincinnati was Covington Latin High School. It's over the river, Kentucky. And there was a guy, he was about 6'2", good looking, not you. And boy, this guy he could score. We, just on the court, could score on the court. Some of you'll get that. Great basketball player, we couldn't do anything with him. But the problem was, or even added to it, was that he was a junior in high school and he was only 14. It was an accelerated program. So he's scoring on us. I'm looking at the coach and he's yelling at us. I'm like, this guy's a junior. He's like, he's a baby. He's only 14 years old. He had 25 that first game. Second game, same thing. He's got 30 points. Couldn't do anything with him. We became good friends. This guy, he's in another sport. You might have heard of him, David Justice. And he still talks about those games. He definitely still talks about it. So sometimes friendships can get cut short. And as you'll see in the trailer of our film, sometimes friendships can get cut short because people don't go to the doctor. People don't get prostate checked. The film, the trailer that you're going to see, King of the Block, it's about Cincinnati, Moeller, and Princeton. You know, two of the, well, you remember Jerry Faust before the mishap at Notre Dame. He was a great high school coach. He coached Moeller High School, and then a guy from this area, Pat Mancuso. Guy know the name? Pat Mancuso's from this area. He coached Princeton. So they had this great rivalry. It was so big. I know you guys have a big one, but Princeton's field was right, you could see it right off the highway on I-75. People would stop on the highway to see this game. And it was huge. So I want to show you this trailer, and then I'll continue to talk about it.
School football rivalries are so important to me. It's almost like a good friend of mine, Tim Highland, says, it's the essence of what's great in America on Friday night when you get high school football and stuff.
So what are some of your memories playing against Moeller in the state final?
Yeah, we got our rear ends kicked, but it was fun. It was interesting, and I actually did a speaking engagement at Cincinnati Moeller, and for a welcoming gift, they played the whole game in front of me while we did it, which was awesome because they were so good, man. The Francisco boys, Timmy Oden, Schaefer was the quarterback. They were just loaded with talent. Shane Bula was the middle linebacker. It was just we didn't have a shot, but I always say we were the best public school in the state. You know, that high school football in the state of Ohio is something that people are passionate about. And the thing about that, nobody makes an apology for that passion.
So drafted in 1980, the Bengals get here, and of course I'd heard a lot about Cincinnati football, and the first game I went to was the Moeller Crusaders at the Princeton Vikings. They're right off 75, and I look, and being from Southern California, football was pretty big. Of course, Florida and Georgia and Texas always talked about their football, but man, I went to that game and it's like, whoa, standing room only. Pretty cool. So that was my introduction to Cincinnati football, the Moeller Crusaders in Princeton, and I fell in love with it. And of course, my son ended up playing, starting 3 years at Moeller as an offensive tackle, 3-time All-State, at Moeller. But yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Well, I've always felt that rivalries are what get you up in the morning.
And it's either you're going to win and advance and go on to win a state championship, or you're going to lose and go home and watch them go on and win a state championship.
Arnold Franklin was a beast.
Come from two different backgrounds, which was great. I'm black, of course, he was white.
He was one of the ones we prepared for.
They always had all these super athletes. We were just the men of Moeller.
It was Princeton, the city school that would dare face one of the GCL powerhouses.
We were the public school and they were the private school.
And she was so upset. I'm over there happy as what could be because we won.
I didn't speak to him until they lost. They went to state that year and lost to Akron Garfield. No, Canton McKinley. Canton McKinley whooped their tail. Then I spoke to him.
had as they were leaving, they were yelling, "Shut out, shut out." And they certainly have done it to the Moeller Crusaders.
One game we lost. It was my senior year, the last game against Canton McKinley.
I enjoyed that game. That was awesome.
We're going to the state, and Canton McKinley, they rolled us. I mean, they beat the brakes off of us. And then she started talking to me. Like, you're wrong for that.
The thing I like best about Carolina is that when we ride and share our stories going up and down 75.
It's a long drive down there. There were records set.
We're driving cars on a Mars tonight.
If we've heard he was coming, we would go get as much money as we could.
Two guys just trying to get home, enjoying each other, having fun.
We just hit it off as friends.
Because we threw all that stuff out the window when we hung out.
And it's probably been 10 years, so I haven't seen him in a while.
But my understanding that with prostate cancer, if it runs in, family, so if, God forbid you have it.
They came back with prostate cancer. I didn't even know I had prostate cancer, man.
I mean, your head immediately goes, oh my gosh, why? Because you want to go to all the negative stuff, I think, because then we're not surprised. But if you sit in that world, you're miserable.
I was still working out. I'm a 5 a.m. workout guy.
When he goes in for this biopsy, there's no reason to panic.
My dad is like the strongest person I know.
We will laugh at everything because that's who we are.
Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. Let the other guy lose.
When you got a friend, you just got a friend.
The tests for cancer came back.
Well, we increased his life insurance policy, so whatever happens is good. We are good. No.
About 1 out of 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during his lifetime. Prostate cancer is more likely to develop in older men. About 6 cases out of 10 are diagnosed in men who are 65 or older. In fact, when we were doing the film, Arnold Franklin, the guy who went to Princeton, he encouraged us to get an exam. And one of the producers on our set found out he had prostate cancer. But fortunately, it was early enough, so he's getting along really good right now. So we all know what it means to play in a rivalry game. So how many of you hope to see your grandchildren playing a rivalry game? Now, I have to tell you, the prostate exam is painless. I mean, it's not like the old days where you get up on a table and the doctor puts on a glove and is digging for gold. And it's not that way anymore. It's through a blood test. So, just want to make sure for the men out there and for your loved ones, if you haven't had a test, that you get it. If you did have a test, continue to get it because there's no excuses. I mean, we all know what it's like to fight against a rival. So let's get on a team and fight against something that we can win, and that's against prostate cancer. Okay, any questions?
What led you to the line of work that you're in?
As a filmmaker now?
Yes.
Well, as a sports writer for 30 years, there was a story that I wanted to write. It was a guy out of Dayton, Ohio, by the name of Dwight Anderson. He was the #1 high school player in the country at the time, and as far as basketball, amongst guys that are in the Hall of Fame, Isaiah Thomas, Dominic Wilkins, and Dwight became homeless. And I wanted to write a story, but when anyone described him, it was so visual. I mean, when you have a nickname, The Blur, I mean, you have to try to put that on screen instead of on paper. So once I did some research on Dwight and found that was the best way to tell that story, and that's how the bug hit. And I said, you know, I think this filmmaking thing, I want to do more of this. His question was, what led me into getting into filmmaking? Yes, sir.
Of all the projects you've done up to this point, what do you consider your best achievement, I guess, or best documentary or whatever?
Well, you know, even as a writer and as a filmmaker, the best one you haven't done yet. I would say I'm proud of them all, and the reason why I'm proud of them because I try to tell a story more than just the sport. As this one, King of the Block, you know, we're dealing with rivalries, friendships, health. The one on Dwight Anderson was dealing with homelessness and how a guy came over the homelessness. Believe Land, and you know how Cleveland, how they've just been terrible as far as winning anything, and just how it uplifted the city for that to happen. So always the next one is going to be the best one. That's the attitude I have.
What's your next one that you're working on?
My next one that I'm working on, it's a secret. Let's just say, well, yeah, I'll tell you. We're working on a scripted film on the summit where Jim Brown brought all the top athletes into Cleveland to, as people say, it wasn't to support Ali, it was to support his right to be a conscientious objector. So we're going to look at that and doing research on that right now. So that'll be the next one.
That's a great project.
Yes, sir.
First of all, dynamic, just trailer that was good. I had a friend that lost to prostate cancer, so I know the importance of that meeting to be tested. But getting back to athletics, what's the biggest change in athletics you've seen from your high school days to now?
The biggest? Oh, there's the biggest changes in athletics that I've seen over the 30 years. Athletes are better. There's more money. There's more media attention. I mean, I guess I'm the youngster here, but back in my day, nobody had a press conference to announce where they were going to college. They just, you know, it might have been in the paper or they said it over the loudspeaker or something like that. So a lot of things have changed, and I would say some for the better. And you know, now college athletes can get paid. I mean, some of them are getting paid anyway, but at least now it's legal.
What sports did you play when you were in school?
Well, you're gonna laugh. I was a miler. Yeah, I read. Oh, the question was what sports did I play in high school, and I said I was a miler. That was about 100 pounds ago, and I played basketball. And that's when I was introduced to David Justice.
Okay, I'm a track coach.
Was there a collegiality between the writers and the PD, because there were a lot of good ones at that time?
Oh, repeat that question again.
Was there a collegiality, that's a 25-cent word, but amongst the writers at the PD during your era there?
If I think I understand your question, as far as you said the writers at the Plain Dealer. Camaraderie. Oh, it was great. It was a great place to work. I miss a lot of those guys that have retired and been laid off, and now with the Cleveland.com more or less in the forefront, it's a lot different. But it was a great place to work. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Hold on. All right, now we're cooking. All right, here we go. Back there.
Yeah, you mentioned Moeller and Princeton, Cincinnati, and when I was coaching, we had to spend a day with Jerry Krause and his staff down at Cincinnati, also the University of Cincinnati staff, and I've never seen a team with 300 players, 29 assistant coaches. I mean, Jerry Krause
That's about the biggest miss he's ever had. Yeah, Jerry Faust told us about those stories of having coaches come in, and even college coaches, that they would work together and have these camps. I mean, Jerry was before his time. I mean, they always talk about recruiting, which Faust said he never did that, but let's just say he was before his time.
What story did you write that it broke your heart?
Wow.
I'm really good at this.
Yeah, that is really good.
Thank you.
Story that broke my heart. I would have to say, a story that broke my heart. I would say the story I did on Jaleel McLaughlin. He's running back with the Denver Broncos now. He played at Youngstown State. Prior to that, he was at Notre Dame College in Cleveland. And prior to that, he was homeless in high school. And the fact that, and it was happy tears of knowing where he came from, and he was barely recruited. In fact, Notre Dame College recruited him by watching him play basketball. They didn't even get to see him play football. Nobody recruited this kid out of high school for football. So he goes to Notre Dame College, goes to Youngstown State, becomes the all-time leading rusher of all divisions in college football, and signs a free agent contract with the Broncos. And yesterday, in that win over the Bears, he totaled like 104 yards with receiving and rushing. And this kid literally came out of nowhere. And he's such a good kid. And the fact that I wrote the story when he first came to college, just, brought tears to my eyes. Yes, sir.
What's your first love? Being a writer or a videographer, and how did you learn those trades?
Well, first love is writing. I think that was in middle school, and I wrote a story. And speaking of crying, my teacher cried, and I thought I was in trouble. I'm like, what is going on? And from her encouraging me to continue to write, really made me fall in love with the craft. And now that I'm a filmmaker, it's just another way. I would say I'm a storyteller. So whether it's writing or you see it on the screen, you're still telling a story. And how I developed it is I wrote a story, and a filmmaker from Hollywood called me because he wanted information. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? I don't know him from anywhere, and he's calling me for this information. But I gave him the things that he wanted, and we ended up being good friends. And he's the guy I call all the time about how to do this, how to do that, as far as the film industry. So he's been a great mentor. Yes, sir.
Any good Cavalier stories?
Wow, some good Cavalier stories. Are we among friends? Well, of course, LeBron. We have to talk about LeBron stories. I think probably my favorite story is the first time I saw him. John Lucas told the media, he said, hey, over the summer, I'm gonna have guys come in playing pickup ball, and why don't you guys stop by? So none of the other media guys would stop by, but one day I did. And he said, oh, that high school kid from Akron, he's here. So LeBron was going to his junior year. And so they're playing pickup ball, so it's LeBron who's in high school, you had some college guys, and you had some of the Cavaliers. And I couldn't believe it, what he was doing. I mean, he was so great that one of the players called timeout in pickup ball. He was doing so well. And I remember calling my editor and telling him, I said, hey, this kid named LeBron is here and doing things I've never seen before. And then I ended up writing a story. And what happened, the Cavs got fined because it was a workout and things of that nature. But that was just an incredible thing to see in person. Yes, sir.
What was the story that your teacher cried about?
I wrote a poem to my 8th grade girlfriend. Now, where she is now, I can't tell you. But I owe a lot. Owe a lot to her.
Say the poem.
What was that?
Say the poem.
Oh, I can't.
Branson, take us through Believe Land, how it came about, what research you did for it, and kind of walk us through that.
Well, that filmmaker that I was telling you about, he called me and said, "Hey, Branson, we want to do something on Cleveland sports. Cleveland hadn't won a title since Jim Brown in '64, and we need somebody like you to do some research." So I did a lot of research, and fortunately I had a relationship with Jim, so I was able to get some information from him about it. And that, one thing about filmmaking and writing, I love to do research. I mean, you find things that you didn't know, or something that you've been looking for, and then it comes about. But that was fun because we had to change the film after it came out because the Cavs won it. So the original version has Cleveland trying to get a championship, and then the next version, we had to change it because the Cavs won it. But we were real happy to make that change. Yes, sir.
Your one video had Pete Rose that I saw. What was it like to work with Pete? Should he be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, as a Cincinnatian, of course, I'm going to say Pete deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But working with Pete, wait till you see some of the clips that we saved. Pete is hilarious. Pete's something. The guy's memory is just uncanny. I mean, you'll ask him about a game, he'll tell you what the count was. And I asked him, things about the World Series, about what Sparky Anderson, what was the strategy for certain things, and Pete remembers everything. He was such a joy to include in the film. Now, he didn't go to either school. Pete went to Western Hills, but we needed to have him in on the film because when you think of Cincinnati, I mean, Pete Rose, I mean, who else?
Could he be a subject of a story, a documentary?
There's one coming out. They're working on it now, one on Pete Rose. Way in the back there.
What do you think about the Bengals and the Browns now?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Raiders fan, actually.
The
Raiders. I'm a Raiders fan. Raiders fan. Hey, but because of the Raiders and the Steelers, that led to my marriage. The Raiders were playing in Pittsburgh, and so I said, hey, let me go check out my Raiders. So I go to Pittsburgh, and I met a lovely lady there who happened to be a Steeler fan, and ended up getting married. So 2 weeks ago when the Raiders and Steelers played, oh boy, so she had the last word, but yeah, Raiders good to me. Yes, sir.
Did you ever do any background research on Ernie Davis?
Not a lot. Talking about Ernie Davis, Syracuse, Ernie Davis, Cleveland Browns, Ernie Davis. Yeah, Ernie Davis. I heard some great stories about Ernie Davis. And again, we always think, what if? I mean, that would have been incredible.
Who was your worst interview?
My worst interview? My worst interview was Reggie Miller, but Reggie Miller ended up becoming a good friend. I think he was busy or something at the time, hitting shots on the Knicks, so he had something else to do. But Reggie, I always tease him about that. It wasn't a good interview, but we ended up being good friends. Yes, sir.
How long ago did you meet Jim Brown, and what was your impression of him then and now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got a Jim Brown story for you. So in '89, Jim Brown's book, like his latest book came out, in '89, Out of Bounds. And I was a student at the University of Cincinnati and worked for the student paper, and I want to do a story on Jim Brown. So he happened to be in town, Cincinnati, a book signing. So I go down to the book signing, pull him to the sides. Mr. Brown, have you ever worked in any businesses? He paused for a moment, had the famous Jim Brown chuckle. He said, young man, before you interview anyone, do your research. He says, come by the hotel tomorrow. I'll talk to you further and I'll sign your book. So the next day, I did that. He encouraged me some more. Now, he could have just blew me off, but the fact that he gave me that advice, that just stuck with me. So that was in '89. I get to Cleveland in 2000, and we rekindled our friendship, and he just became a really close friend. And when I got the news about his passing, it was hurtful that he passed away. But Jim ended up being a good friend, and I miss him.
There's so many sports, of course, that you could cover in film, and you've done a great job with what you've done so far. Have you ever thought of like doing, say, different sports, whether they be Olympic sports or you know, something out of the ordinary in a different field?
Like track 100 pounds ago? Oh, absolutely. It's, you know, for me, it's not the sport, it's the story. Whether it's, what now they have slapping as a sport now, slapping people, and I mean, it's all kind of weird sports, but if there's a good story there, I'm all for it. Is there somebody else over here?
A couple of them.
Oh.
Do you still do any beat writing, or are you just focused solely on filmmaking now?
Well, I freelance for ESPN. I'll write stories for them probably about twice a month. Do some feature stories. I mean, that's the bread and butter. That's how I cut my teeth. But right now I'm focusing on being a filmmaker. But I'll always write, no question about that.
Did you ever do a background on Warfield?
Paul Warfield? Little. I remember talking to Paul, especially about those 72 Dolphins and the fact that still undefeated record still stands. I mean, it's incredible. But he's definitely he's a nice man to talk to about any historical information. In fact, last time I spoke with him is when Jim passed, and he shared some good moments that they had together. Some up front.
You talked about the summit thing that you're working on?
Yes.
You know, you're losing those guys left and right.
Yes.
You lost Bill Russell, Jim Brown.
Ali.
Yes.
Walter Davis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's only, if I remember, there's only 4. Jabbar, Wooten, Walter Beach, and there's another guy in the photo. Depending on the angle, you can hardly see him. He's still alive. He's in the background there. So there's only 4 of those guys still alive.
One of the tackles?
Say that again?
Was that one of the tackles? Brown's tackle?
No, it was, I have to see the picture to name them. Yeah, but there's only like 4 or 5 still with us. What was that lady's name? What was she here? Is Cheryl here? She must not be here. She put on Facebook that she was going to ask me a question.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Cheryl Riker? You can't think of a question? Oh yeah, good. Yeah, Women of Troy is about the 1983-84 USC women's basketball team with Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, Pam and Paula McGee. They were the first women's team to win back-to-back NCAA titles, and because of them is the reason why we have the WNBA. And it was a great journey trying to do the story. because it was 8 to 10 years in the making. And I was always surprised with USC being such a great film school that no one had ever done the film. You know, a lot of times that happens when things are close to you. You don't really think about it. But we were just fortunate to be able to do a film like that. And, you know, for me to meet, you know, some of the women I thought were just great players. You know, Cheryl Miller and Cynthia Cooper.
Do you plan on doing any other stories on any of the women or women's sports?
Probably. As I said, do some more research, you know, wherever I could find some good stories. So certainly will. Because
Stick out to you right now that you'd like to do research on?
nothing sticks out right now. But I'll say to you that there's so many stories out there. I mean, there's so many out there.
Left back.
Thank you.
I'll give you a tip on a story.
How do I get a tip? Oh, you want to give me a tip? Okay, just between us?
You know, Canton is the home of Thurman Munson. Thurman Munson was captain of the Yankees, of course, and he has a few documentaries out on him, but I think he would be a wonderful subject to give a history on and do a story on, because I knew him personally, went to high school with him here in Canton, and what he did for the Yankees is unbelievable, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think you could help him.
Can we talk after?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's talk. For sure. Yes, sir.
The 30 for 30s. Could you give us a little history of those? Are they still making those? Always liked them.
Yeah, they're still making them. They don't really call it 30 for 30s anymore. The person that came up with the idea is no longer with ESPN. But what they tried to do when it first started was like 30 years ago was like their base. But they've gone back and forth in terms of the years on what stories they come up with. But ESPN is still doing documentaries, not as often as before. Yes.
Who has been one of your favorite radio or TV personalities that you've worked with?
Radio or TV people that I've worked with?
Yeah.
Rob Parker and Chris Broussard. They're on Fox Sports, and Broussard's from everywhere. He's lived Cleveland and different places, and Rob Parker's been a good friend for years, and I just like their back and forth when they're on the radio, and when they occasionally have me on, it's usually good conversation.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
Hey, I'm here all day.
Are your
Come on.
stories?
Yes.
Have you ever done any history of the McKinley-Masson football rivalry?
No, but there's been a couple films on that. There's been a couple films on that rivalry. So I don't think I can do it any better. That's true. It's true.
Where are your ESPN stories? Are they on ESPN Plus, or what are they?
The written stories?
Yeah.
The written stories on ESPN and Scape. So and most of the time it's on the ESPN site. You just go on the ESPN site or Google my name, ESPN, and stories will pop up.
Do you ever go back to the older teams like the Cincinnati Royals, the basketball team?
The Big O? So the question was, do I go back to some of the older stories, Cincinnati Royals, things of that nature? I've thought about that because the Cincinnati Garden, they tore it down about 3 years ago. And of course, that's where they played. And I always thought it would be good to look back when the Royals were there, when Cincinnati had the NBA. And Big O is still around, fortunately. So
that was my father's favorite team.
Royals, good choice. Good choice. Yes.
Did you come up with the phrase "Believe Land"?
No. That's been a Cleveland thing, you know, for quite a few years. So we just borrowed it.
In your lifetime, an awful lot of sports print journalism has
come and gone, yet Sports Illustrated remains. What do you envision for the future of sports journalism?
I think it will, as far as the writing's concerned, as far as the print, it'll still be here. I mean, people still like to read. I think just now, instead of reading in the paper, it'll be on your phone. It just and more of us, because the one thing about the newspaper back in the day when the internet was coming along, and my editor used to always say, well, you know, newspaper's gonna always be here because you can't take a computer to the bathroom. Well, so, but yeah, I think it will always be here. People always want to read at some point. Even though kids, we got to encourage them though.
I got a question.
Yes.
What do you think about social media and the athlete actually taking his own story in his hand? Does it discredit what you're saying if the guy can go on Twitter and say Branson Wright is lying?
I think there's good and bad with athletes having access to media or to get their message out. The good, they can give their side. The bad, especially if they're interviewing other athletes, they may not dig. They may have soft gloves as far as getting information. But I do think anyone, and athletes included, need to get out their message. But I think there's always room for a reporter that can ask those tough questions to get what I always say, get the truth, and not just we're friends and I'm just gonna, soft toe around you. Well, this crowd over here. What about this side?
Someone in the back.
Back there.
Have you considered writing any books since you're like writing?
Yes, I was approached to write a book by somebody you all know who lives close to here. Can't reveal right now, but we're just waiting for it to happen.
If you want a good title for a book, I think you should consider Bill Powell, who owned and operated the first golf course as an African American.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stories on that, and I think that could be a good documentary or good book, definitely.
Looks like you're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Last question?
No, you can go.
Okay.
What is the average reader? What does that profile look like? Is it young, old, black, white?
Okay, is it newspaper, magazine, or online? Which one? You want all three? All right, newspaper is definitely 50 and up. And I think the internet, that's a wide range now, because everybody's on the internet now. So I'm, around 30s and on up. It just depends. And, and a lot of people now try to get more of their information on watching the news, watching television, instead of reading the paper. Who still gets home delivery? Thank you. But in some places, in Cleveland especially, the home delivery is not what it used to be. So although I'm not with newspapers anymore, I still support newspapers.
Go through the process of, if you're at Cleveland Brown Stadium, you're in the box, you're writing a story about the game, the process of writing it, editing it, and how long do you have to turn it in before?
You want how we used to do it?
Yeah.
And how we do it now?
Yeah.
Okay, how we used to do it, you'd go to Browns game, you'd have your pad, pen, you watch the game, take some notes, somebody over the loudspeaker is giving some information. They come by with stat sheet, after each quarter, what's going on. And then after the game, you go downstairs, they open the locker room, or they'll bring some players out to the podium, and you'll start your interviews, run back upstairs, deadline, write your game story. That was back then. Now, you do much of that, but after the game, well, no, during the game, you're on your computer and you're doing updates, like on Twitter and other social media, and I'm saying, oh, so-and-so fumbled, and what's the lady now who's dating Kelsey? Yeah, Taylor Swift is in the stands, and this, so it's just constant information. And then afterwards, I got my phone, I'm recording what the player's saying, I'm writing it down, I go upstairs, I'm on the internet again, and then I start writing my story. It's a lot. It's a lot more than it used to be. And some of us old guys, we don't like to do that anymore, but that's how things change, and you gotta be ready for the change.
What time does it have to be delivered?
Oh, as far as the deadline, well, on Sundays, with a 1 o'clock start, game over about 4, there's a consistent deadline. There might be a deadline at 5, and then a deadline at 6, because you have to continue to feed the beast, the internet. People want information, constant information. The old days, wait till the next day, grab the newspaper, there's everything you need. Yes?
Yeah, we always read that players have to give interviews. What happens to them if they don't?
If they don't?
Yeah, if they don't answer your question.
You find somebody else.
So they really don't have to.
Well, they don't have to. Now, the NBA, you'll get fined if a player refuses to talk. And it doesn't make sense for them not to talk. Now, if a guy's having a bad day, he said, look, guys, I don't feel like talking today. Okay. All right, we'll catch you at practice. But if it's, say, all week, I'm not talking to you, then that could be a problem, especially if it's a star player. But the leagues generally don't care for that. I mean, the days of Steve Carlton not talking to the media, I mean, that wouldn't fly nowadays. You guys remember Steve Carlton? Never talk to the media, never. And he's in a Hall of Fame. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to me.